We've been searching for this answer. Right? Been searching for this answer for a long time. And I think we finally got it. The question is, how can the Houston Texans trade Deshaun Watson if Deshaun Watson, we don't even know what the commissioner thinks, what the league thinks, what the likelihood is of him playing this year? So yesterday, in addition to the Washington football team, Roger Goodell opened up on Deshaun Watson. Take a listen.
And until that process is ongoing and we have enough data and enough information to be able to make a determination of whether he should go on commissioner exempt, we don't feel that we have that necessary information at this point.
Take a look. I want one more time. Listen to the last two sentences. Go ahead one more time, Ron.
That process is still ongoing. And until that process is ongoing and we have enough data and enough information to be able to make a determination of whether he should go on commissioner exempt, we don't feel that we have that necessary information at this point.
Okay, so look, there's some potential criminal charges. There's civil charges, that a civil suit that's out there against him, and they don't have the information. It's not really what he's saying is very lawyerly and very true, but the message is, hey, look, everything that's been brought to the table doesn't rise to the level of suspension. So I guess he can play. I don't think there's any question here that what the Dolphins hear in this is you're going to take a PR hit when you get him. But this doesn't feel like it passes the smell test. It just doesn't. And because of it, there's nothing we can do. Like, remember, they've held guys out because of accusations in the past. They've suspended people in the past because of accusations. They have chosen to this point to not even put them on the commissioner's exempt list, and they have been investigating it. I don't know. That's what I hear is he's going to be able to play. He's going to be able to play. There's nothing we can do. We haven't gotten any information to this point that rises to the level of a commissioner's exempt list, let alone a suspension. Buyer, do you hear something different in that?
Summarize just your question again, if you will, just so I can answer it correctly.
The question is, how can the Texans, or how can anybody trade for Deshaun Watson? Right? How can you, when you don't know what the commissioner's office is going to do with him in terms of the commissioner's exempt list? And when he says we don't have that information yet, and basically saying to this point, nothing to put him on that list, you get plenty of information. It just doesn't appear to be the type of information that's going to take him off the football field. That's what it feels like to me.
I don't understand, and I don't know if I'm answering your question. I don't understand the report that Stephen Ross wants to know what the outcome is before giving away what the Texans wanted. Because isn't that the whole deal? If Deshaun Watson is free and clear of the charges and there is a commissioner, whatever, even if it's a year or 8 games or whatever it may be, you're still getting your franchise quarterback. But to think that you're going to get him at a discounted rate, it just doesn't, none of it makes sense to me. Like, you either give them the discounted package with the question of him and his status, whether it be with the commissioner or whether it be with the charges that were, alleged against him, or he's free in the clear and you just give the Texans everything that they want. To me, there's just no middle ground. I don't understand how you could have middle ground, and I don't understand why the Dolphins would ask or say that they want to know. Everybody wants to know what his status is. Texans want to know what his status is going to be. The Dolphins want to know what his status is going to be. So I don't know why there would be some middle ground unless the Dolphins were willing to pay less with the possible risk that he may not play for them or have a substantial suspension.
Jason, what do you think?
I think that Goodell's comments, as you just said, I think he seems to be giving teams, or the Dolphins specifically, the go-ahead to make a trade. He does leave himself an out here by saying, up to now, we haven't been given enough information. I'm going to continuously be the guy who is like, how does any team, let alone the Dolphins, bring this guy in knowing what's going to happen? I know you say it's a PR hit, and I think Dan has said on this show that it'll be like a one-day news cycle thing, but think about it. Deshaun hasn't really been forced to answer questions. You have to put him in front of reporters, and then your entire organization is going to be hounded by the woke mob and everybody else. It just seems to me that that's not worth this, plus the assets. But
I didn't say it'd be a one-day. I did not say that. I just think at some point they're going to move past it.
I really think if we look at, and it's different because it's a quarterback. Roethlisberger, what people forget about Roethlisberger was, okay, Roethlisberger is really suspended for three things. There was a Lake Tahoe deal. There was the Georgia deal, which ultimately led to suspension. And in between, you guys remember he had the motorcycle crash where he didn't have a helmet on. He went over the handlebars of his bike and busted his head open. You guys remember that? And it was everybody believes that he was suspended for the accusations in Georgia. It's really a lot like the Ezekiel Elliott thing, where it's just like, dude, you got to stop being an idiot and putting yourself in this position. So we're just going to suspend you. So I think, I mean, look, if you have this level of accusations, and some of the accusations, just if you actually read them, you're like, really? But the fact that there are I don't believe there's any pending criminal charges against him. It's really hard for us to figure out any sort of what's real. What do I think happens in terms of the media? I do think it's he'll have one intro press conference, will be uncomfortable. He'll read some sort of statement. He may do some Q&A, but these are personal things that don't pertain to football. And if they're not a criminal case, and they probably won't go to civil, they'll have to settle or whatever. Like, I think those things, I think they go, I do think they go away. Does it paint the picture of he's got a weird sexual history? Yes. Okay. And this is a guy who, I mean this when I say it. Like, I didn't like that he was holding out. I didn't like what his agent, because his agent did this with Jalen Ramsey before. That's what his agent's kind of known for. They signed a contract, got paid for the first 3 years of the contract up front. And then before the contract really went live, because the last season was actually under the old contract, he's like, I don't want to play for you anymore. Like, that just, and it was after the Nuke Hopkins trade. So I was anti-Deshaun in terms of his stance from the start. I talked to NFL people, and every one of them are like, well, if Deshaun Watson, this is actually a quote from another GM, if Deshaun Watson isn't good with how an organization is run, I side with Deshaun Watson because there's a guy who has a pristine background, right? So he has positive equity. I think a lot of that is gone. But I do think you cash it in, and then you move on, and you start playing great football, and I think things change.
I mean, you're closer to this than I am, Dan, but like, when all this came down, I think Deshaun had originally said something along the lines of, I've never disrespected a woman. And I remember thinking to myself, that's just simply overcompensating for something. When somebody says something like that, I'm thinking there's something there. It's like a person that says, I never argue with my wife. It just isn't true. And what are you hiding? So I kind of got the feeling then, unless he's said something since then that has been different than that.
No. No. That's again, the disrespecting your wife, like, again, everybody has a definite, it's like it all depends on what your definition of is. Like, I kind of feel like we all kind of know what feels like happened, right? I just, again, like, I know we're available on Sirius satellite radio, but I don't feel like we're also under the watchful eye of the FCC. So there's,
well, yeah.
And again, doesn't mean that, again, doesn't make it okay. Does it rise to the level of criminal activity? To this point, the Houston Police Department says no, right? So,
well, no, that's not correct, because they just haven't completed their investigation. That has not been. They've had their own allegations.
That's a fair, and thank you for the correction. But wouldn't he have been, like, these are not new allegations? Wouldn't he have been charged?
He's the starting quarterback of the NFL franchise in Houston. And
I understand, but some of this works. Some of that works against you now. Okay, some of that works against you. Where you're like, we want like this. What happened to Plaxico Burress, right? Plaxico Burress shot himself in the leg. He's already humiliated. It felt like double jeopardy when he went to jail for it. But New York wanted to make a point. No one is above the law in terms of carrying a gun. Well, carrying an unlicensed firearm. So he went to jail for shooting himself in the leg. Right? I do think that there's a level of, he doesn't, and by the way, he said he doesn't want to be Houston's quarterback. If they had the stuff to charge him with, remember, he doesn't want to be in Houston. He wants out. Now, it's nothing to do with the city of Houston. So I understand what you're saying, Dan, but the reality is not the starting quarterback, wants nothing to do with the franchise, simply wants to go somewhere else, and they still haven't charged him. Again, I don't know what happened. Neither do you. Neither does the Twitter sphere. Neither does anybody else. I can guess. I can suppose. That's not how I've rolled, but I also would tell you that I'm just trying to use logic here. Wouldn't logic tell you that, especially in these times in 2021, where we're trying to make up for the fact that women have not been protected well enough by the law? Wouldn't there be charges already? Is that is this reasonable? Again, thank you for the correction, Dan. You're not wrong. I was wrong in terms of where they actually are. It's still an open investigation, but it's not like it just got an open investigation last week.
That's gone on for a while. Yes. Okay. And even when I said that of him being the starting quarterback, you're right. There's I don't know if double-edged sword is the right analogy to use on it, but there's a way where you have to be super careful, and
yes.
Then there's the other side of it with I think the Burris situation that you mentioned with New York, and I think that's why we see it.
It's just like in school, and like everybody remember this from when we were if you were in high school, right? Like everybody thinks like, oh, well, teachers always help out the jocks. Well, there might be a teacher that helps out the jocks. There's also might be a teacher that is anti-jock. Happens in college as well. You'll have one, my marketing professor when I was at Oklahoma State, okay, also kept the stats for the basketball games. Right? Dr. Lee Manzer. He taught a great class, but he was as harder on me than he was any other student. His son played basketball. His grandson now is a walk-on the team and is going to play at Oklahoma State, right? So here's a guy who, on the surface, bro, that should be an A. You get Manzer's class, it keeps your stats at the game, right? It's an A. I got a C. It was like the hardest class I took at Oklahoma State. Why? Because he knew I had to be better than everybody else. So I think that along the lines of the police as well. Will you have people in police departments that may, turn a blind eye or give the benefit of the doubt to somebody famous? Yes. But you'll also have people who are like, nah, man, we got to be extra vigilant and make a point to somebody who thinks they're above the law. So I do think it works both ways. And the reality is there's not to convene a grand jury and to get charges against somebody is not that high a bar, and they haven't done it yet. Doesn't mean it won't happen. But again, this is part of what Goodell's saying, like, look, there's no charges. We have no information. Yeah, I think he can play. Like, he can play. It's weird. By the way, do we have the Tua sound? Do you guys have the Tua sound again? Because the Tua sound is different. All of these people are quoting Tua Tagovailoa saying, I do not feel wanted. But I think didn't he do the double negative, Dan?
I don't not feel wanted. That's what I could say. Honestly, I don't base my emotions off of who says anything about me or who's saying what.
No, but people are misquoting this. Look, I'm looking at all these quotes that say, I don't feel wanted. That's not what he said. He said, I don't not feel wanted, right?
Yeah. I did see one report that had it correctly, but I have not. It's odd that Twitter would be wrong, but yeah, to your point, it is the double negative.
Twitter wrong.
I don't not feel wanted.
I don't not feel wanted. All right. I mean, listen, the double negative strikes again.
It's like idiot test.
Fully this at MD Snakeheads says it's not TV Gottlieb show. Investigations take some time, especially involving 20 women. I understand. I do understand. This is not a new investigation. Everything has been turned over. So they've interviewed these women. Again, I'm not sitting here telling you that. Please don't think I'm telling you I think that these actions are appropriate. And if he sexually violated any woman, he should go to jail. But I'm not the law. I don't know the accusations, whatever. I just know that when there's this level of attention to a case and there's been nothing in terms of levied charges from the criminal side, it makes everybody go like, I don't know if they're real.